Alrighty, what is up, people of YouTube? It looks like there is a bit of a fuzzy if I record this way with this camera because of the this phone has a. Well, actually, no, I don't think it does have a slight crack unless I'm tripping. Nope, it definitely has a slight crack that runs through it. So yeah, I this is twofold. First and foremost, welcome back to the channel. For those that have not been around, my name is Caleb. I should maybe do a channel intro at some point or a new one and put it up. Um, so yeah, overarchingly, I think the main thing that I wanted to talk about a bit was I watched um, a show technically called Iwaju last night, or Iwaju. Uh, it's on Disney Plus for those who don't know. And yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's pretty much a show without going into too much detail about the seedy underbelly of Africa, in this case, particularly Lagos in Nigeria. And yeah, so it's pretty interesting. It's supposedly the first uh, Nollywood produced Disney production, um, which is interesting because the executive producer, at least one of them, her name's like Elizabeth Chen. Not to say she can't be mixed. I definitely just thought it was an interesting uh, fact that the producer is of at least some Asian heritage. So I, yeah, I mean, I definitely just think that's it's a curious thing. So anyhow, with that being said, a quick hot take as well before I get into talking more about the actual show itself, which actually plays into well as me calling it a quote show unquote. Is that so? I think there's some validity, and I understand to a degree why Disney puts out content that is episodic in nature. Um, I think the thing about it that doesn't necessarily bother me per se, however, I think is, we'll just say at least questionable, is that there's some cases where it works. I think it works in the sense of, it works in the sense of Marvel. It works in the sense of Star Wars, right? I mean, in general, these are, epic tales that span, quite literally uh, multiple universes in their narrative, as well as, just a whole plethora, a whole bunch of uh, locations, you know? So it's definitely interesting that, you know, and it makes sense, rather, that those entries within the Disney intellectual property sphere, that those have those, you know, that setup, right? Uh, that design in terms of how the actual shows go, how the actual uh, you know, show delivery pops out, where they have the movies, yes, and then they also have shows that could have been movies, however they end up being long format episodic uh, shows, where it ends up really being, you know, effectively what could still be an entire movie. I think Falcon and the Winter Soldier was something like six. I think it ended up being like 6 episodes at about 45 minutes apiece. So, I mean, that ends up being like a 2 hour and what, like 270-minute entry. So, I mean, that's almost like 4 hours, right? I think, of content, something like that. So, I mean, it makes sense, I think, in that vein, because then you still get like a decent amount uh, of character establishment, so to speak, um, as well as a just a decent, you know, a decent amount of content to put out. Uh, yeah. So there's a decent amount of character establishment, or, you know, character showcasing, depending. Like Falcon, not everyone's like huge on Falcon like that. So there's character establishment, or if it's something like Star Wars, and you have perhaps like an Ahsoka, or you know, insert whatever character here. In this case, it's Ahsoka. Um, that there's just a decent amount of character showcasing and audience interaction, you know, to keep people engaged with whatever series that might be uh, shown, right? So I think there's a notable amount of validity with that. Where I don't understand making things episodic is when you have literally 6 episodes. So, for those who don't know, Iwaju is 6 episodes at, give or take. Um, I don't think they're more than. I'm pretty sure they're actually only about. They're 20 to 30 minutes, right? So, you know, I don't necessarily understand chopping it up into uh, into 6 pieces, because you're going to have a movie that's pretty much you know, it's going to be pretty much 2 hours, and I think along with that, um, you know, it doesn't even necessarily, and I could be wrong, because honestly it could be, well, no, it's probably, yeah, it's probably just about 2 hours. um, the whole thing is that one could watch that in 3 separate sittings. So I think there could have been more intentionality of making it at least appear as though it's like it's an actual special thing, right? Like it's, yo, Nigeria, Nollywood, first Disney production, da 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 da. Which, I mean, granted, I'm feeding into the hype by producing a video like this, um, to some degree. And, that is what it is. Not going to sit around and think about it too much. It's just funny to me, and then instead they made it 6 parts at 20 minutes apiece. And the thing is, too, in the way that I think the Marvel films, in my experience, read much more as being episodic-esque in nature, where, if you watch one episode of how they have it set up on Disney Plus, like it definitely feels like you watch an episode, right? And one could say, it's still sort of a chunk of a whole movie. However, the intention and the design, at least to me, reads as they put it as being more intentionally episodic. Whereas I watch Iwaju, and honestly, uh, when I first saw it, and I was thinking about it, I was like, oh, it's a movie, dope. I'm finna watch that, whatever. And I think it was such that it broke engagement more so as well when I watched it through and it was episodes, as opposed to if I had watched it as a movie, and I was like, oh, bet there's like this whole narrative, da 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 da, etc., etc. Uh, so color me disappointed, so to speak. And yeah, I mean, ultimately, it was just something that I didn't find particularly, I just didn't like the setup of it. And I think they could have been much more intentional about, you know, feeding the audience more of the content, if not all of the content, all at once, based on the fact that it's literally designed to be a feature film. Like, there's not, yeah. If you all have a chance, I definitely recommend watching it. And this is from someone who ended up watching, and it's like overarchingly, it's positive. It definitely has like there's, bad people in the world type of thing. I don't think it was really, it didn't read as being like particularly a black hate type of film where it's like, oh, this villain is all the stereotypes. I mean, maybe somewhat. Uh, However, it's definitely more of, more notably an African film. So yeah, just some 2 cents. It's not going to be like a Jordan Peele film, right? It's, yeah, there's nuances. Um, so yeah, I think overarchingly though, it's definitely I think it's worth a watch. I think there's almost more value in watching like I don't know, I mean, I think there's value in watching both I was going to say, I think there's more value in watching a whatchamacallit, watching the watching the what is that one movie or show called? Muzai. Man, I'm having a challenging time remembering what it's called, it seems. Um, there is a movie, though, pretty much called, it's not like Will of Fire. It's also on Disney Plus, though. Came out last year. It's like Moo. Man, I don't seem to remember right now. It's like Muzai Toko or uh, what is it? Muzai. It's something. I don't recall exactly. Um, yeah, where it's basically uh, a bunch of different artists, similar to that of Star Wars Visions, that basically are from various places in Africa, and they basically produce the the whatchamacallit. They produce some animated films, um, short stories, basically that are pretty cool. So anyhow, um, yeah, that is pretty much the review. Story wise, it's pretty decent. It's got a little bit of Tales of Two Cities with uh, more, perhaps a more robust, robust underbelly, so to speak. Um, yeah, so I think it's definitely. It must be only about 2 hours. And mind you, that's 2 hours with credits. So technically speaking, it's really probably about an hour 45, which even further reinforces um, the fact that they could have just done, you know, a movie and been like, for the first time ever, Nigerian Disney Studios presents, or something like that. So it's definitely downplayed, in my personal opinion. Just as someone of Black heritage, take it with a grain of salt or not. Um, yeah, so just wanted to give my 2 cents on the matter. Um, and yeah, so hopefully y'all enjoyed. Also wanted to test out this mic, see if this little lavalier mic uh, works. So hopefully it does, and hopefully that means better uh, vocal quality for when I go and walk. So anyhow, um, yeah. So that's gonna be it. Hope y'all have a wonderful rest of your day, night, or whatever time it is, wherever you're at, and catch y'all on the next one. All right, peace.